Morning everyone, just doing a quick tidy up before work. I thought what I might do is a couple of short videos with things I've found effective over the years for some of the problems we're seeing around the world that, so this morning I thought I'd start with viral myocarditis. So that's something that I've treated over the years as a naturopath here in Australia. And basically it's when a virus or viral particles attack create inflammation in the heart, the sac around the heart. So it can happen to anyone at any age, but it's very common in young people. And there was a study done like many, many years ago where they looked at people who were triathletes and people who could not stop themselves from exercising. Obviously, that's not me, but there are people out there. And basically, they found that when people refuse to stop when they're sick, they're more likely when they're unwell, when their immune systems are not functioning well, to actually get this viral myocarditis. So there's a lot of... So therefore, it's something that affects a lot of young people. And in Israel at the moment, there were something like 55 cases recently, and most of them were young men between 18 and 30, I think, or maybe it was 21 and 30, but young men. And whether they were healthy or not, I don't know, but a big case. And then just recently I heard about a young dude in America, which made me sort of think, okay, well, let's have a chat about this. So you've got to think, one of the things that happens with the heart is that firstly it has a lot of mitochondria. So it's one of the muscles in our body that has the most mitochondria in the world. So when you're looking at mitochondria, you need coenzyme Q10. So if we are on medications that actually shut down the production of coenzyme Q10, like our cholesterol drugs and things like that, you need to be taking CoQ10 in the background. And of course, Sherry Tenpenny recently mentioned taking about 400 milligrams to protect our heart and our brains at the moment. So basically that's something else that we can do. So about 400 milligrams. Now, there's only, from what I understand, there's only 2 places in the world that actually make coenzyme Q10. So when you're looking at different prices of CoQ10, or at least that was a couple of years ago, and they were both in Japan, and then most places just buy it from there, and then they create their base of the coenzyme Q10, and it's the base that allows the absorption. So different brands have different absorptions and all that sort of thing. It needs to be in a oil base for best absorption. Things like black pepper can be added and stuff like that. So anyway, there's that type of thing going on. Now, basically, coenzyme Q10 up to 400, and if you've got myocarditis, you can need more than that. So up to, say, 600 milligrams a day. So in Australia, the highest dose we can get is 150 milligrams, so, up to 4 capsules a day. My brands cost in Australia anywhere from, say, $41 to $60 for 60 capsules. So it's something that you can really add in. Obviously, the heart is a big muscle, so it requires oodles and oodles and oodles of magnesium. So a really good biglycinate, diglycinate magnesium. Orotate is really specific for the heart as well. Citrate's another good form, readily absorbable, but the diglycinates, biglycinates cross the muscle into the muscle nice and easily, so it's a delivery system that allows high levels of absorption. And obviously symptoms of CoQ10 otherwise, I know I was just talking about magnesium, but back to the CoQ10, can be exhaustion. So have you had operations or medications or vaccines where you felt totally exhausted afterwards? This can be your mitochondria not being able to function anymore. With the magnesium is required for every cell in your body to create energy. So once again, with chronic fatigue, there's been so many thousands of studies in relation to magnesium and chronic fatigue. So these are things that are really well known, but there's good forms and bad forms of magnesium. Magnesium oxide, for example, it actually creates inflammation in the gut. So some people, when they take magnesium oxide products, in fact, there are products like Colon Cleanse, and it's magnesium oxide. It's done deliberately to clean out your bowels. Now, if you get a diglycinate or a biglycinate magnesium that cleans out your bowels, it's not usually the magnesium. It's usually the other constituent things like potassium. So in my products like, say, Cardio-X, Carmex, things like that, there's all sorts of added ingredients in there. So it's not just magnesium. So you can get all sorts of things in there like magnesium, taurine, glutamine, potassium citrate, which is one of the most potassium citrate is one of the most alkalizing nutrients that we have available to us. So and potassium is about your nervous system. So just say the potassium goes into your gut and your gut is really raw. So it's not as strong as it should be. It can be like putting a knife into a PowerPoint. So potassium is incredible, and you've got your whole sodium potassium pump. So when you're taking magnesium, it's good to have some cofactors. And these ones, because they are designed for really specific issues, like Cardio-X is obviously for the cardiovascular tract, and Calm-X is for calming down the nervous system. So that's a couple of things. But also with viral myocarditis, sometimes it can be because some dodgy genes have been switched on. So thinking sulforaphane. So thinking all of your cruciferous veggies, your broccoli, your cauliflower, your Brussels sprouts, your wasabi, your cabbage, those type of things. So your cruciferous veggies, so that you can, and get a combination of raw and cooked, so your coleslaws as well as your cooked veggies, and throw on some Bragg's aminos, make them delicious. But basically sort of getting in there and really, increasing those things to protect your genes. Or, of course, you can do things like your sulforaphane products like Enduracell or Sulfuraclear or Brock shots, that type of things. If you're here in Australia, let me know and I post things out. But anyway, so there are a couple of things for viral myocarditis. There's also herbs. So there are herbs like hawthorn berries, really well known to protect the heart. Things like Dan Shen, really well known to protect your heart. When you've got that chronic fatigue afterwards, the ginsengs, Korean ginseng, Siberian ginseng, Withania, which is Indian ginseng. So Siberian, Korean, Indian, there's a fourth one. Oh, Tianchi, no, that's about bleeding, ignore that one. So those sort of things. So basically, and of course you've got to deal with the viral load. So viral myocarditis, so you've got to deal with the viral load. Obviously with what's going on in the planet at the moment, there's lots of viruses whizzing around. So things like medicinal mushrooms, really powerful for antiviral stuff. Things like zinc, C, D, so your D, make sure it's up to that 80 to 100 nanomoles in your blood test. Vitamin C, you can actually pop that up to your bowel tolerance. So keep taking it until your bowels are a bit looser, and then sort of lower the dose and keep taking that, and then try to increase it. Your body gets used to it after a little while because it's also doing a detoxing. Vitamin C does both blood and lymphatic and fat detoxing. So it helps to get all of that tissue moving. With your zinc, zinc, if you're unwell, you could easily take 10 to 25 milligrams, every couple of hours. Once again, get a good form, zinc citrate, or there's zinc glycinates and diglycinates as well, that type of thing. Heart. Oh yeah, so viruses. So, and then there's of course things like, there's herbs like echinacea and andrographis and elderberries, and if it gets into your lungs, going your elecampane, eyebrights, grindelias. So there's lots of herbs, there's lots of nutrients, there's lots of natural things you can do to pick yourself up, along with doing anything medically, because most of the drugs that are used for viral myocarditis. I've got an auntie who, after her chemotherapy, her heart ended up, of course they're saying it was not connected, of course, but basically she ended up with a heart capacity on the same side as the chemo radiation, but down to 17%. And, hers is up to 25% after about 10, 12 years of treatment. She doesn't do anything naturally. So, it is getting there slowly, and she has a very cruisy lifestyle. And I've got another client who was on 8 medications until the beginning of the year. We've managed to reduce his medications by 4, and his kidney, I think he was down to 12% kidney function. So he hasn't had another kidney test yet, but he was obviously at that point where they've been pushing him for a couple of years to do kidney dialysis. Kidneys and heart go very much hand in hand. You do realise that. So most beta blockers and ACE inhibitor blood pressure medications make you pee more. So therefore there's less fluid in the capillaries. So therefore there's less pressure in the heart. So, and then they tell you not to have potassium, which I think is just one of the crazy things out there. because the heart, that whole sodium potassium pump, you need that working to be able to get nutrition into your cells and get waste products out of your cells and to eliminate on a daily basis. So anyway, it's not something I agree with. And but anyway, so this guy, he's lost like 15 kilos. He's got more energy. He's not having to have a pupper nap at the end every single day for a couple of hours. He's up early in the morning to drive his daughter to the train station, so things can really, and I think the main things we had him on, because we don't know whether he's got an enlarged heart, but nearly always with kidney failure, there can be the enlarged heart. And I've used the stem cell products. So once again, you can email me if you want the details for those, but basically that's the sort of thing as well. So I had a guy years ago, Graham, and he it was a shoulder operation, ka-chink, they opened him up. He died on the table, they put him, and he came back, and then he had a big stroke, and then he had like a clot the size of an egg in his brain, and they put him into an induced coma for 4 months, or maybe he stayed in a coma, but then they had him in an induced one while they were trying to shrink the tumour. About 4 months later, he had some... so he was one of my clients and had been for 10 years. And then, and we were predominantly working, shoulders more than anything else, which, all good. But obviously it became, his heart was 25% enlarged, 25% enlarged. Anyway, and of course, they said nothing we can do about that. So over a period of about a year, I think it was, and yeah, he spent like $9,000 on natural therapies, just saying. But he was using stem cell products. He was using lots of magnesium. He was using Coenzyme Q10 because he had every sign of, heart damage and that was going to take his life. When he got out of hospital, he couldn't walk. He had he was basically a paraplegic, I think. I don't think anything was working from, so he was told he would never walk. He must have been quad, because he was told he was never going to be able to feed himself again. And what was really neat about the whole process is that from my perspective, month by month, he just kept improving. So when my clients came to me and said, this is what's happened to him, we basically, because they don't care about juice in hospitals, we basically got them to open up a whole bunch of supplements into juices. And as long as he was drinking orange juice, the hospital didn't care what he took. So they started. And by the time he got out of hospital, he was walking. But yeah, he was like 47, 48, something like that. Anyway, so by the time he got to see us down at the clinic, we started doing microcurrent treatments every week. Check out Carol McMakin. She's a US dynamo, but she actually started the whole FSM, Functional Specific Medicine Microcurrent in the States. And I went over there about 12, 13 years ago to learn from her. She's retired now. But, there might be a practitioner near you. And basically, so we were doing that. We were doing kinesiology with structural rebalancing because he had this real blurred vision. He couldn't walk. And anyway, month by month, he was improving. And not only did we get about 30 kilos off him, but his heart actually went back to the normal size, which I'm not sure whether that was the CoQ, because those were the three products that we were predominantly having big doses. Coenzyme Q10 magnesium, I think it was in the form of Cardio X, which had the high dose of taurine, magnesium, the potassium, the activated B vitamins, and then big doses of Stem Enhance. And I think he was taking maybe 6 a day, and he sort of just worked it with his budget. But within 2 years, he was back full-time work, and he was like head of a huge fire brigade, really high stress level of work. So, things can be turned around. I actually had another little old love over in Perth in Australia, and she'd had 4 heart attacks, and she was about 68, something like that. And her cardiac specialist just kept expecting her to pass away. And he heard about the stem cell products, and basically she thought, blow the inheritance for the kids, I'll look after myself. So she was actually taking a product called Plasma Flow, as well as the StemTech product, the Stem Enhance Ultra, and she was taking about 6 to 8 of the Stem Enhance a day and maybe 4 of the Plasma Flow, because what the Plasma Flow does is eats fibrin in your bloodstream. When we're under fear, we're releasing fibrin. Fibrin is like a sticky substance, and it's the liver throwing out fibrin. It's an acute phase protein. It's meant to be there when we're under stress or when we're in trauma and shock. So it sops up stuff, but then it can make the blood really sticky. So then you're not getting nutrition through your bloodstream. So it's she ended up, anyway, she's still alive. And that's about 6, 7, 8 years ago. And after maybe 2 years on the products, she had no. And yeah, let's face it, she spent a lot of money on her health. She chose, well, I want to live. So she actually ended up having no scar tissue in her lungs, which was just amazing. So, and this cardiac specialist, he ended up talking to people about, what stem cells can do. So, the viral myocarditis very much linked in with these sort of things, and they're probably the 4 favorite things that I use. So I use high potency magnesiums, I use Coenzyme Q10, obviously something for the viruses. You've got to get the viral particles out of there. And my clients here, and the stem tech stuff, depending on how bad things are. But people are dying from this. So I just thought I'd throw that one out there, viral myocarditis. Have a great day, everyone.